Hey friend, welcome to Grounded, the vestibular podcast. I'm Dr. Madison Oak, aka the Vertigo Doctor. I am the vestibular physical therapist who is here to help you with all things dizziness, imbalance, and vertigo. In this podcast, we explore the fascinating world of vestibular disorders. Come with me as we dive headfirst into a journey to discover the mysteries of the brain, the inner ear, and the balance mechanisms that keep us grounded. Whether you've been managing dizziness for one day or 25 years, we're going to get real about what it takes to manage dizziness, handle the anxiety cycle, and thrive, not just survive, with your vestibular disorder. First, I want to remind you that this is never medical advice. Remember, this podcast is for informational purposes only and may not be the best fit for you and your personal situation. It shall not be construed as medical advice. The information and education provided here is not intended or implied to supplement or replace professional medical treatment, advice, and/or diagnosis. Always check with your own physician, medical professionals, and healthcare team before trying or implementing any information found here. Hello and welcome back to Grounded. Today we are talking about travel, which is a heavily requested topic. The first thing I want you to know before we even get into this episode is that yes, it's possible to travel again. 100% of my patients who want to travel. I have yet to fail that task. So, that all being said, we of course want to start with our win of the week. This week's win is by Carrie. Carrie says, I managed to go camping with my family and some friends. We didn't sleep great, tent camping, and felt very busy with 6 kids total. It was a lot. But my vestibular migraine and Meniere's disease symptoms were minimal despite being very tired at times. We made great memories. I also drove my daughter to her gymnastics class this week, which I haven't done in a few months. I love this. I know I say this every single week that I love this, but I do. It just makes me so excited because honestly, there are so many things that you feel like maybe are limiting for you or impossible for you or just never going to happen again for you. Tent camping is one of the worst ways to sleep on this planet. Like, I'm just going to be straight up honest about this. I went tent camping probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I looked at my husband and I was like, we will never tent camp again. Like, it is so uncomfortable. You sleep so terribly, all the things. Is it a blast? Absolutely, it's a blast. Do I still go camping? 100%. Is it still exhausting? Also, yes. Camping with 6 children and other family and friends is exhausting. And even still, her symptoms were minimal. This is because the hard work she put in ahead of time, being prepared, knowing, hey, this could happen, but this is what I can do about it. And then she also, later that week, drove her daughter to gymnastics, which she has not done in a few months. Driving is hard, especially when it comes to driving with your children in the car. I find that that is even harder for people. So all that to say, congrats to Carrie. I am so impressed, but as always, never, ever surprised. So I'm really excited for you, and I cannot wait to see what you do next. All right, let's get on to the episode. Today, we are talking about travel. I made myself some notes, but I lost them. There they are. I think I did make notes. Oh, there it is. And honestly, most of traveling is just being prepared. Now, there are some things about planes, trains, automobiles, boats, whatever, that you can find way more specifically in Vestibular Group Fit. We do have a very long module. I think it's 9 or 10 videos long about specific things to travel, but I wanted to break down the basics for you so you could get an idea here today, because I always find it helpful to have at least a small idea of what you need to do, even though I, of course, go into depth on everything so much more in Vestibular Group Fit than I ever do on this podcast. But let's get into it. So the first thing to do is to be over prepared. Preparation is key to success here, people. You want to be so prepared that you are prepared for any and all situations. You want to be that prepared anyway. Like, if I even go on a hike, I bring a first aid kit because you never know what's going to happen. So be over prepared. The week or so before, I recommend every time you use something for your vestibular disorder, you just put it in your suitcase. So let's say, oh, I'm having an attack and I need, I don't know, some ginger, some medication, I don't know, my weighted vest, I don't know. And you're like, that helps me ground and whatever. Okay, great. put those things when you're done using them into your suitcase about a week in advance, and you can always use them again if they're in there, but like store them in there so that you do not forget them before you leave. The next thing to do is to pack all of your tools. Like make a list of the tools, even if you haven't used them that week. Make a list of the things that you do in order to support your body, which is something we go over heavily in group as well, because building a toolkit is so important in management. And then go to the pharmacy for extras. So if you're like, hey, I'm almost out of Timolol and this isn't going to last me for my whole trip, or I'm almost out of my CGRPs, whatever, you can talk to your doctor and talk to your pharmacist and tell them you're going on vacation, and they can fill a prescription early and oftentimes get your insurance to cover it. So that's definitely something to try. If you're like, I have this new treatment and I haven't tried it yet, and I'm really not sure if it's going to work for me or not, try it before you leave, right? You want to know if something's going to work with you or not. If you're just going to be like, I'm going to pack this new thing and try to see if it works when I'm there, that's not a good idea. Next thing is to pack ice packs and or Ziploc bags. So people will pack those ice packs that you can break open and are like get cold really fast, basically, or you just pack a Ziploc bag. And if you're on a plane or a train or whatever, or you're on a road trip, you can oftentimes just fill up that plastic bag or request it to get filled up. And most people will give you ice for free. From my understanding, slash every time I've ever asked for ice, except for one time that I can recall in my recent memory, slash just like plain water, people will just give it to you for free generally. So that is always a good idea as well. Next is bringing your things to mitigate sound and overstimulation. So your Avalux glasses, if you don't have a pair, please use code VertigoDoc. They're the only ones that have research supporting them and backing them up that it actually works. The next thing, of course, are your pair of loop glasses, loop earplugs. Loops are amazing. They will help block out the kind of ambient noise, but let through the main noise you're trying to listen to. They do work pretty well. I am a fan. And then, of course, a hat. So anything with like a brim on it is going to block the light that is coming down into your eyes from above, which is always, of course, important as well. When you are preparing for an airport, a lot of people say to me, well, I'm nervous to go in the airport because it's basically just like a giant box store. And that is true. So what do we do to prepare? You practice like you play, right? You cannot just walk into an airport these days and walk around. Absolutely not. But what you can do is try your best to like replicate it. So you can go to a Target or a giant store of some sort, a huge Albertson, Safeway, whatever. And while you're doing that, practice almost walking around that like you are going to be at an airport. So go at peak hours, go when it seems to be really busy, and practice there ahead of time. Next is going to be arriving a day early from your actual travels themselves. So if you are going on a trip and you have plans, let's say, I always give the example of a wedding because most people know how this works. Typically, a wedding is Saturday. Sometimes there's a Friday event. The Friday event is usually pretty optional, so don't feel pressured to go unless you, of course, have to if you're like in the wedding or it's yours or it's family wedding or whatever. Okay, so usually you don't have to go to that. So let's pretend you don't have to go to Friday. I would want you to arrive early on Friday morning and get acclimated, or even Thursday night if that's possible. Arrive that morning or that night before. Then you are going to, if you arrive Thursday night, just go straight to bed. Take a little bit of a walk when you arrive, whether you've gotten off a plane or off of a long car ride or whatever it is. Arrive and take a walk. That helps reset your proprioception and reset your vestibular system to be like, hey, okay, we've stopped moving now. We're okay now. And then move on with your life. Make sure that you have a high protein snack when you arrive. Cottage cheese, yogurt, beef jerky. Not all yogurt is created equally though, but high protein yogurt, protein bar that's made of clean ingredients, protein shake, whatever you want, and a little bit of fiber. So some berries or something. And then go to bed. If it's the morning and you've just flown in, arrived, hopefully you've slept the night before, take it easy that day. So that Friday, you're just going to take it easy, lay low. Don't schedule yourself a giant tour of the city the day you arrive. That is usually not going to go well and not a good idea. So preparing yourself to say, okay, on day one, I'm going to take it easy and rest. Maybe you do one thing close to the hotel that's easy to cancel just in case. Then the next day you go, it's the wedding day. Let's say the wedding starts at 3 or 4. Rest up that morning. No need to do anything crazy. Sleep your normal schedule. Keep your life as normal as humanly possible. Eat at the same time. Stick to your 30 grams of protein. Stick to your wake up time. Stick to your lunch time. Stick to all of the normal things that you normally would as close as possible to be most successful. Then, of course, set yourself a time for departure. So if you're again at a wedding, I'm going to leave by 9:30 or 10 and go to bed. You can, of course, use your tools while you're there because it's exhausting, but that is what I most recommend. Then when you get home back from your travel, rest that day as well. There is literally no person on this planet who does not think travel is inherently exhausting. So whether you get dizzy, whether you get a stomachache after, whether you get symptoms, whether you're just exhausted, we all need to rest after travel. So give yourself that time. There's literally no reason not to. Prioritize your sleep and prioritize your nutrition. So I am going, actually, as you're listening to this, I am in India, and I highly, highly, highly recommend doing what I am doing, which is to pack the things that I use at home. So my supplements, all the things, my medicine, whatever. But also I'm going to be packing protein and jerky because protein powder is something that I use every morning to make sure I hit my personal protein goals. And I know that some food maybe is not going to be the right fit for my stomach there. And so I'm going to prepare accordingly, right? I'm going to prepare to say, okay, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't eat whatever food or do whatever thing or whatever. Don't do it. So prioritize your nutrition because the things that you eat at home are effective for you, and then prioritizing sleep. I'm still going to go to bed at the exact same time if I possibly can. I'm in a wedding, so it's maybe a little bit different, but I'm going to go to bed as close to my normal time as humanly possible, despite probably being jet lagged. But some of the best things that you can do for jet lag are take omega-3s. You can set basically your eating time to that time. So ahead of time, ahead of travel, you can start to shift when you're eating, and that can be really helpful because a lot of your circadian rhythm or your sleep rhythm is based on when you eat food. And then just have a plan of attack for that. Sometimes you can even pack your pillow if that's something that you feel like you need to sleep. And when you fly, sit over the wing because that is the part of the plane that moves the least. So that will be helpful as well. When you go to a hotel, you can call sometimes and request it to be cleaned with only natural ingredients. So like no Lysol, bleach, crap like that. They have other cleaning supplies that they can use, like just vinegar or Branch Basics, whatever the hotel has. You can also request sometimes for an air purifier to be put in there. You can also sometimes request them to clear out the fridge for you if you have things to put in there. Like if you have an injection that you need to take that happens to be when you're on vacation that you need to refrigerate, make sure that those things are there. And sometimes it's a better idea to get an Airbnb or a VRBO or whatever, Verbo, however you say it, than it is to get a hotel. It's just going to be completely and totally up to you and your personal needs. So those are my quick trips on travel. Do not forget to prepare. I started making my list of things I need for India. I am not joking with you, probably a month and a half ago, probably at the end of July for my trip in October, more than 2.5 months ago, because it is that important for me not to forget the things I use every day and the things that I want extra for the specific trip. Granted, it's a big trip. I don't always do this, but think about these things ahead of time. You will not regret it. All right. Thanks so much for listening. I love you. You know where to find me at the Vertigo Doctor everywhere and this podcast at grounded.vestibular.pod.